Hey guys, what is up? We're back with another 911 Mythbusters. This time we're taking on, can disconnected cell phones still call 911? We're going to be getting into that, plus some extra laws and things that apply to the talk we're having today. So, even though it might be annoying to some 911 operators, especially when kids get a hold of those cell phones, this one is confirmed. Your old disconnected cell phones, with or without a SIM, can still dial 911. Now, if they don't have a SIM, then more than likely they'll still have to be connected to Wi Fi. But your old cell phones, even if they're not connected to an actual number, can still call 911. It happens all the time. Most of the time, it's going to be the times where someone's given their kid an old cell phone to play with because they like playing with cell phones or they have games on it, or even babies that pretend to dial and talk to someone. If 911 gets dialed on that phone, it's still going to call 911 and it's still going to be tying up 911 lines. So be careful with that. But the good part of that is if you catch yourself where you've run out of minutes, which I'm not sure how many people actually prepay minutes nowadays, but used to be a thing back in the day for those of you that might be younger. But if you've ran out of minutes or you've ran out of your service plan, or let's say you use like Straight Talk and you haven't paid it this month and you're going to skip a month on having a phone, well, it can still dial 911. So just keep in mind that it can if you ever get in a situation that you need to. And that's due to some past laws and things that have happened. Now, with disconnected cell phones, we also have the issue of finding a location. That's where even more you need to know a location that you're at, because whenever a disconnected cell phone calls, all it doesn't even show the actual number of the phone. What it will do is when it pops up on our information screen, the prefix for the number, like the area code for the number, is 911 and then shows a random string of numbers. Also, it is much less likely to get a good location on those. Most of the time, those are going to be um, just phase one data, which means it's kind of showing the tower it's hitting in different locations. It it doesn't have phase two location, which is an accuracy within, so many feet. So if you have a disconnected cell phone that you have to call 911, be sure you know where you're at, because we're not going to get that phase two location that's an accurate depiction of where you are. It's going to be bouncing all over the place and just basically hitting off of towers. We're not really going to know where you're at. Sometimes Wi Fi does help with that with some of the more recent laws and everything. Now, disconnected cell phones aren't the only time that, the laws have been made to protect someone that has to dial 911. One of the things that was initiated way back in the day and not used as much anymore, since most people dial off of cell phones, I'm sure that'll be changing in the future. There is an act called Ray Bombs Act. And what that is that whenever a landline location, which this now extends to voice over IP phones or VoIP phones, whenever it's a landline or business or commercial location, it has to provide on the 911 information or the enhanced 911 information the name of that business and the address. And to go even further, if you live in a district where there's multiple floors or like high rises, things like that, they are also required to provide the floor number or unit number that that phone is in. So let's say even that it's in a shopping center. For instance, we have a shopping center in our town that has things like Aldi, Hibbett's, Wingstop, some nail places, some more food places. And what would happen is, let's say Aldi has to call 911 from their store phone. Even though they may have a voice over IP phone, they are required, or the phone company should be setting this up just as a prefix. Um, it is required that it shows the location that they're calling from. So when it pops up on our 911 screen, we'll see that it's coming from Aldi at Suite 103 at this and this address. So it should show the unit number and address that you're at whenever you're calling from a landline or business phone like that. Another law I want to get into, and this one hits close to home because I am a 911 operator in Texas, and this is something that started in Texas, and I think it's an amazing thing that this family has gone out and done this, and it's called Carey's Law. So let's take a look at what Carey's Law actually is. So on December 1st, 2013, Carrie Hunt died because of a single digit. Carrie met her estranged husband in Marshall, Texas at a hotel for visitation with their three children. Allegedly, her ex husband brutally attacked and stabbed her multiple times. Her 9-year-old daughter tried to call 911. In fact, she tried 4 times, but the calls failed. While she was able to rush her two siblings to safety, Carrie Hunt died from her injuries before help could arrive. So, why did these calls fail? And why did this law even become a thing? So, at this particular hotel or business, which is like this at many businesses, not just hotels, or at least it was, you needed to dial a 9 before you're able to dial out to a separate location. And this happens in a lot of businesses. You either need to dial 9 or 8 or whatever prefix before you dial out of the location. Now, with Carrie's Law, what that did is when these places install phones or get a new service, um, of course, places are grandfathered in, which I think businesses should take this step anyway to protect their clientele. Neither here nor there, but they are required by law if they get a new system or if it's a new build place that you don't have to dial the prefix anymore. Um, and also because that's not what we teach our children. And that, when a child dials 911, they're dialing 911. They're not dialing 9911. So what this all did is changes that where you don't have to have that prefix. I would say not even just with children being able to dial, but when you're in a high stress, high trauma situation like that, a lot of people aren't going to be thinking to dial a prefix anyway. So that's basically where this is coming from is a tragic situation that put a spotlight on the need for this to happen. Not only does it remove the need for the prefix, let's say you still dial the prefix at, let's say you've only worked in hotels all your life and that's just a habit for you. If you dial 9911, it's still going to call. If you dial just 91, guess what? It'll take a few extra seconds, but it'll still dial. And this happens with all multi line telephone systems. So if you have a business or commercial place that has multi line telephones, it will still dial 911 with any of the combinations of 911 or even without the prefix. And it's something that I think is really important, and I applaud this family for going out and doing this. Another thing we're going to look at is I'm going to go ahead and bring up a video for this. It's going to be the news report of this. We'll take a watch of this news report of when this first
Expect
occurred.
help will be on the way, but that's not the case on many phones here in Texas, and the results can be deadly.
You know how at work or schools or hotels you have to hit 9 to dial out? Well, the family of a murder victim says a call for help went unanswered because in the panic of the moment, her children could not get that call out.
And today, that family made the case in Austin that Texas needs to fix the 911 system. They talked with our Chris Sadeghi.
Last December at this Marshall, Texas hotel, Carrie Dunn was stabbed to death. Her estranged husband, the suspect. Dunn's 9-year-old daughter saw it happen and dialed 911 4 times, but never got help.
I felt guilty because we had told her to dial 911.
Dunn's father, Hank Hunt, knows his granddaughter did exactly what she was taught, what we're all taught.
If you ever need help, dial 911, and that's what she did, and we let her down.
911 didn't work because at this hotel you had to dial 9 first for outside calls. Hunt says that's a problem and wants Carrie's Law to be the answer.
Any device, anywhere, anytime, 911. That's it.
regardless of where it is.
Carrie's Law would make dialing 911 a certainty to get an emergency dispatcher, because right now, if you walk into any multi-telephone line, hotel, office, or school and hit 911, you may or may not get the help you need.
Some hotels we've stayed at said dial 6821 for emergency. Well, who's going to answer that? She did not know to dial a 9 first.
On Wednesday, Hunt was in Austin speaking at the Commission on State Emergency Communications workshop, once again telling the story of his daughter's death, hoping it will save someone else's life.
I believe Texas does have some legislation concerning 911, but it's not a consistent legislation.
And the consistency they want is 3 digits that work each time, every time. From downtown Austin, Chris Sadeghi, KXAN News.
So yeah, that's the story behind Carrie's Law. And like I said, I do believe it is a very important thing that that family did in order to be able to make sure that everybody gets help when they need it. And even if you're not able to dial a full 911, you're still going to get the help you need, or at least it's going to go to a dispatch center that's going to recognize something's wrong and to go check the area. And that could be a huge difference for a lot of people. So this was actually you saw in the news article that it was back in 2013, or as you can see here at the top of this graphic, it occurred in 2013. It took this family, what is that, 7 years to actually get something fully put in place, but they stuck through and they did it. I believe it was February 1st of 2020 when this law finally took effect and all of these businesses had to start changing. Now, granted, it did happen because laws are finicky and people like having their freedoms and rights, and that it applies to everything, which is good. You know, you should always have your freedoms and rights. But these businesses were not required to immediately change them. It's when they updated phone systems, or if it was a new build business that had to be applied to their phone system that they got. Um, if you update your plan, your phone company that you use should know about these requirements and do it for you. Um, I'm not sure that there's many other businesses in our district that haven't switched over yet, but there are a few. Um, and this also goes for, the hotel phones and swimming pools. I mean, this has been a thing forever. Those dial directly to 911 no matter what you do. If you try and call the front desk, it's gonna dial 911. So just keep that in mind. If you're at a place and you need help, it's always gonna be there. And we're trying to make strides to make this better and apply to more places and make sure everyone's updated. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. And please, if you enjoy, like, subscribe, let me know some things that you want to know about 911 in the future. And until next time, if you have to dial 911, remember to always dial up those details.